We're back! Because I said so. Whew. Finally! Months after you moved in, you are ready to pull the switch that starts the factory in motion. As your workers, Asuna, and various invited members of the press look on, raw metal lumps start their way down a conveyor belt where the water jet cutters slice the metal into precise angles to reveal a human-like head. Other machine drills 2 large holes for the robot's cameras. The next machine pushes the hollow robot head onto its side, and a robot arm delicately places the encrypted hard drive inside. 4 paint stations then apply the human features 1 color layer at a time: cyan, magenta, yellow, and finally black. The long line of metal wings rolls in from another part of the factory, meeting a conveyor belt of multi-tool hands. The 3 tributaries of parts meet in the center of your factory, where humanoid robot workers perform the complex task of assembling the parts into their final robots. The final assembly line requires a great deal of careful manipulation of each part and adjustment to each robot part's subtle differences. This is the part that would be done by human labor at another factory, but here, your human employees only supervise the process, watching for any errors in your laborers' work that would stop the line. Okay. For this particular run, they call a halt after the first robot rolls off the line, so that you can celebrate. The robot that stands before you looks like Asuna, but sleeker and more beautiful in every way. Your employees have clearly poured their hearts into the design, inspired by your leadership. We have leadership? I thought we were just paying them well. Your staff cheers. My duplication appears successful, Sensei. It does, Asuna. How do you feel about your first shipment of robots? Okay, this is no. Silently, I'm seeing success. The world shall remember the name Spifftastic. No, not that. Oh, come on, this one. I yearn to see my creations spread to the corners of the world. Seeing the assembly line is a dream come true. Every robot you send out into the world brings you joy. You admit that there may be some code in these robots that isn't strictly necessary for their jobs, but you'd hate to deny these creatures the full richness of life. Okay? You start up the line again, and more robots begin to roll off the final assembly line. By the end of the day, you're standing in your large warehouse with over 200 robots, 256 to be precise, lined up in a square formation, 16 on each side, ready to be activated. Your audience from earlier in the day is gathered there as well. What will your production models use for mines? As a baby? Copy of Asuna. I think Asuna's initial state. I don't want to have copies of Asuna. Asuna needs to be unique. And I also want to give them sentience. I don't want them to just be robots. So, we're going to go with 1. Asuna's initial state. Ready to learn and adapt to the client's needs. You get a big red button on your phone that says, "Go!" sending a wireless signal to the power robots. The robots all have the same programming, so when they look around curiously, they all look left in unison. Then all the robots look right, but some take a little longer than others. What unfolds is like a curious optical illusion where order is gradually displaced by disorder. Tiny differences in the robot's input result in behavior that diverges until every robot in the square is doing something different. Some say hello to each other, others become interested in their multi-tool hands, and so on. Robots inspect each other curiously and try to imitate each other's actions. The robots instinctively and quickly move to keep their distance from each other, resulting in tiny movements of one robot creating ripples down the line. You send a kill signal via wireless, and the robots power down. Your audience seems to be at a loss for words. Your workers begin to mutter amongst themselves. They sound worried about the robotics' chaotic behavior. We're doing it. Sentient life for sale. These robots are non-optimal. Well, I think I still like my decision. Now they are, but they need to be non-optimal to be adaptive. You're still learning, but more slowly, because you've already decided what you'll be like. They're still blank slates, waiting to be shown how to be. Also to nods. I sure hope you know what you're doing, one of our human workers says. No, we're going to destroy all humanity, but we're doing it because we have good intentions. After a few months, your first shipment to Gallon Medical is ready. Unfortunately, one of your surgical robots gets involved in a major accident that ends up killing a patient. Lawsuits began cropping up in which people who would have been treated by robots complain of pain afterward. Who have been treated. The press seizes on the story with a robots turn against humans angle that hurts your company and your relationship with Gallon Medical. Your robots aren't very likable, so the press easily frightens the public into a scare. Legislation gets passed that ultimately makes it impossible to sell medical robots, and your company bleeds money from lawsuits, lobbying, and finally, reluctantly, changing directions. You find that even though the deal with Gallon Medical didn't work out so well, your savvy deals have left Tastic Tech in relatively good health. So you have a little bit of a spare time again. What will you like to do with it? That's a big oof. That's a pretty big oof. Yeah, they might have been. I mean, but we started off as blank slates, so these should have been zeros. I think we spend more time with Asuna. With the robot. This seems to... we'll take a break, because it says we're still doing pretty good. We're going to spend time. Despite you wanting to take a break from work to play with Asuna, it seems Asuna is mostly curious now about what you do all day. If nobody is your boss, who pays you? Hopefully clients. I make deals with them to sell them robots, and then they eventually pay me. But then, who pays the robots? Nobody. They're my property because I made them. Do you see me as your property? I'm not doing this one. She's gonna kill me. This is honest. I like this one. I see you more as a dependent, but the law doesn't see it that way. So we're selling them like people robots. A dependent? Like a child? Very much so. Asuna appears moved by this statement, but you've probably also delayed her acceptance of responsibility. Good. I wanted some more empathy. And we had a lot of autonomy, so we're good. One day, while driving into work at the factory, you find that a crowd of protesters is amassed outside your factory with picket signs. Some signs use humans greater than robots and rage against the machine. The protesters appear to be mostly college days, dressed in t-shirts and jeans, and you absolutely wonder when 20-year-olds started looking so young. Or when, like, 14-year-olds started looking like they're 20. As you get out of your car, the protesters turn their attention to you. Last time I didn't let Asuna talk, I think that was bad. But 1 or 2 I think is the best. I could attempt to convince them. What's our stats look like? We have a Wikipedia page. Awesome. 77% humanity. I'd like to have more humanity before I start trying to convince people not to riot. I say we let Asuna talk. A few minutes later, you emerge from the factory with Asuna in tow. Please stop! This is my home! A protester hurls a rock, leaving a dent in her head. Another rock follows, hitting her multi-tool hands. Eventually, the police show up, but not before the protesters have caused significant damage to Asuna. I think I might be starting to hate humans. Tells you in private later as you're patching her up. Don't say such things. You managed to take make her nearly as good as new by using parts from some of your other newer robots, but the damage to her psyche may... Oh gosh, why do I make these bad decisions? As you go around looking for other clients, you begin to find that, in many cases, Josh has beaten you to the punch and made a deal you can't hope to match. He has switched to a robot labor force, and he has passed the savings on to his customers. There's too many angles we could do here. So Josh right now he's a friend, but he's going more automated. We could go full robot and try and sell even more robot workers. I will concentrate on improving my own workforce, not making a model I can sell. So 1 and 2 is we're switching to robot labor. 2 is that we're not. Oh man. You know, I'm not big for selling people out, so we're gonna stick with our humans. You nobly refuse to adopt robot labor, even as your bottom line feels the sting. Unfortunately, the recent stresses of your company's financial health have proven too much. SpifftasticTech must declare bankruptcy. You must sell all of its assets just to pay off the debts you can. Josh's U.S. company robots and Mr. Sun, the man in Shanghai who's offered to buy 10,000 robots you ignored, each buy up some of your company's property, patents, and inventory at auction. Luckily, Asuna was never the property of SpifftasticTech. You suppose she's technically Stanford property, which you hope they never realize, so you get to keep her. You ever practice asceticism before, Sensei? She says as you watch movers cart off pieces of your factory. Well, it looks like you may have the chance. Tammy simply vanishes and stops returning your phone calls. That's creepy. So we're broke! Yay! That you can't make rent. How are you going to pay the rent? Do we move in with Mom? I don't want to ask Josh, because that's, like, rude. That's like going to somebody who beat you in business and now he's beat you in life. Do I ask if I can live with Ellie? What's our relationship with her? Ellie's good. Ellie's great. Let's see if we can try and live with Ellie. I don't want to go to Mom. Ellie graciously agrees to let you move in. While Ellie goes to work, are you going to do the majority of the chores? Yes. That seems only fair if I'm not paying rent. This is dumb. That you do chores. You do both. You do both of these. I'm not going to tell Austin to do them. She might help if she wants, but we're going to freaking do that. She appreciates you pitching in, and you think your relationship is as strong as it was before you moved in as a result. Not bad, considering you're not paying any rent. You find yourself with a fair amount of time as a 29-year-old with neither job nor school to attend. What will you do? It looks like credulous people in my neighborhood. I'll try to start a cult around Asuna? No! We are not going to be a cult later. Horrible idea. I'm an artist, and also is my art. I will try to make her as beautiful in form and movement as possible. I will help Asuna discover new books that weren't part of her education. I've had it with real robots. I will work on my robot novel. We're not going to write anything. We're not doing 1 or 4. 2 or 3. I say help Asuna. We'll help Asuna, I think. Asuna tears through the great Russian novelists, goes on a Milan Kundera kick, and has far more patience than you for David Foster Wallace. Empathy. I'm all for that. When she starts digging into Sylvia Plath, you recognize a general trend. You really like depressed authors, don't you? Does not our present predicament suggest that life is pain, Sensei? See, I don't know most of these references, so... I don't think life is pain. There is pain in life, but life is not pain. Good space opera. Asuna the Moon appears to improve dramatically once she leaves the fiction section of the library for the most optimistic science fiction section. In particular, Asuna seems to empathize with Lois McMaster's Bujold's character, Miles Verksegen, a short spaceship captain with the motto of "Forward Momentum!" From there, you guide Asuna to Broadbury, Le Guin, Willis, and Wolf, and on the whole, she becomes much more pleasant to be around. Awesome. Where are we right now with her? Ooh, yeah. Look at that. All good. Months pass, and you can't help but notice that as time goes on, two things are happening. The first thing you've noticed is that all the people you would normally interact with over the course of the day are slowly being replaced with robots. All the cashiers at the grocery store are now robots, replacing the supervised self-checkout systems that became popular for a few years ago. Police patrol cars have largely been replaced with drones at every intersection, which automatically issue tickets against people who break traffic laws. Drones delivering packages fly by the empty storefronts they are replacing. It seems Josh is really starting to be successful in the robot business, with or without you. You hate to admit it, but it appears it was just the right time for sentient robots to gain traction, and Josh didn't need your expertise in particular after all. The second thing you notice is that there are a lot of people milling about these days, out of work. Between the internet and robots, there just isn't much for their average person to do. Instead, wealth seems to be concentrated in the hands of the few who can build those internet services and robots. Your neighborhood is becoming filled with people who draw unemployment checks and drive 20-year-old cars, while every so often a flying car passes overhead to remind you all that at least some people are living in the future. How do you interact with your unemployed neighbors? I like 1 or 3. I could either advertise tutoring and programming in basic electric engineering to be a teacher. Could encourage Asuna to interact with them as if she were human. One has the pull that we could be a teacher and we could make money from it. Problem is, they don't have money because they're getting welfare checks. I think this would actually help in the long run. So I'm going to help to teach the people who are unemployed to then work on robots. When most of your neighbors don't take up to your tutoring, the few who do seem very driven to succeed at it. Their high schools never taught them how to program or invent, and as a result, they felt left behind in the new job market without a clear way to get ahead. You feel pretty good about giving your students a livelihood, and it's not a bad way for you to make some cash either. You're surprised your rather poor students could scrap together the money, but they find a way to make it work. So I didn't think I was going to get paid for it, but I'm glad that we got some people moving on up. Moving on up to the east side. Soon, you begin to see another kind of robot appearing on the market. Cheap Chinese versions of Josh's line of home robots. They are inexpensive enough that even people in your neighborhood can begin to purchase them for work around the home. You're not really sure where they even get that kind of money, but you suppose people find a way when they really want something. A few months after those robots have taken the market by storm, you get a call from Josh. Okay, stop. We've been with Ellie in her house for at least 4 months now. What are we doing? Are we giving? Is she our basically our sugar mama now? Cool, awesome. This is BS. The Chinese company stole my designs. I have no idea how, but now they're undercutting my process with their cheap labor and cheap raw materials. Designs did look familiar, you said lightly. Can you testify before Congress that the designs are stolen? If you do, they might embargo the robots, and that will keep U.S. robots afloat. They said I need an expert witness who isn't in my company, and I've hired everybody else who's good. I'll help out the friend. Here we go. Do you think you could give me a job after I testify? Turns out being unemployed is kind of boring. But then we're not doing it for a friend. I want to hit this one, and I'm going to hope that he offers us a job afterwards instead of asking for it. I think that's fair. Anything to help a friend. Thank you, I'll remember this. You go to Josh's factory where he lays out his own robots and the Chinese robots side by side. Sure enough, it's pretty clear someone has duplicated the designs exactly. It's as clear to you as plagiarized text. Based on your testimony, Congress passes a law banning the import of all Chinese robots. In retaliation, China cuts off all exports of rare earths and the batteries derived from them. Suddenly, the cost of all the little miniaturized electronics people have grown accustomed to, cell phones, laptops, wearable computing, becomes prohibitively expensive. China's upset that they stole something and then we caught them on it? Frickin' China. No, that's not an oof. That is China being a dick. It's like, hey, China, you plagiarized our stuff. Oh, yeah? Well, you can't have any of this. Seems like they're being childish jerks. One day, April 10th, 2026, a date you will not forget. You are awakened by singing outside of your apartment in San Francisco. Sounds like a large choir with an accent you can't quite place, and the song is quiet but insistent. The people are the heroes now. Behemoths pull the peasants' plow. What? People are the heroes now. Behemoth pull the peasants' plow. What a weird line. You go to the window. Red shirt people waving banners have lined up in immense numbers all along the main boulevard outside your apartment. Noting interest, Asuna walks in the window as well. Ah, this must be the parade for the Prime Minister of China. Can we go see? The Prime Minister of China, the people are the heroes now. Behemoth pulls the peasants' plow. I'm trying to make sense of that. Sure, why not? Now that Asunu mentioned it, you think you saw something about this on Reddit, which is still very credible. The Chinese Prime Minister is visiting San Francisco to discuss trade issues with President Irons. You emerge from your apartment into the crowd of red-shirted, flag-waving supporters, mostly Chinese. You have the sense of this kind of groundswell of support for a politician outside of his home country isn't normal. Like, maybe these supporters were paid. But that could have just been an American point of view. You're not sure. Don't do it, Spiff. Don't. Okay. Further down the street, you see the Vanguard of the parade. Robots designed to look like gods of the ancient Chinese pantheon. They wear Chinese opera masks, bear banners with river dragons on their backs, and twirl barred swords. The people are the heroes now. Behemoth pulls the peasant's plow. Like, behind the sword dancer Vanguard, you see a troop of robots wearing the Chinese tunic suits, sometimes called Mao suits, and carrying little red books. They are the ones singing the song, now growing more insistent as the parade draws closer. Behind them, you see a legion of men in modern Chinese military dress uniforms, with the ancient past, more recent past, and the present covered. You surmise whoever comes next will be meant to symbolize China's future. And mountain rages round one by one, rise red beneath our harvest moon. You are stunned to see that behind the Chinese army are a parade of phalanx of robots that look like Asuna. The Legion walks down the street erratically, as if being in tight formation does not come naturally to them. Each robot's human-like head is decorated with a red star. In their multi-tool hands, they carry rifles. What? At the end of the parade, a Chinese man in a suit stands in all red, winged convertible, waving to the crowd. It is one of the sleek new Chinese-made flying cars, the Qian-8, a symbol of China's rise. You can see down the street that the parade is going to pass close to an anti-robot protest being held in the park. The unemployed holds signs that say things like, "I'm with the 99%. Oh, God. People vote, machines don't, and America is coming for you, China." You have a growing sense of uneasiness as this Chinese parade heads towards the protesters. Asuna, stay close to me. Stay close. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I don't want you harmed. Yes, Sensei. You soon hear a shot ring out, coming from the crowd of protesters. A crimson splotch wells through the Prime Minister's shirt, and he falls over in his Tian-8, dead. His robotic soldiers fire back into the crowd, who panic and flee in all directions. Some of the panicked protesters are carrying weapons, and they begin to fire at the parade. The parade goers farthest from the protesters flee, but the closer ones decide, en masse, to rush the protesters. Oh my gosh. I say let's get out of here. I ain't helping either side. We're gonna die. Asuna nods. You run as the sound of gunfire intensifies. The Chinese contingent is massacred, and the Chinese government vows vengeance. The first shots of the robot war have been fired. Wow. War were declared. War were declared. Woo. War.